Good afternoon from our studios in Amsterdam. Today we will be hosting an Ask Me Anything with Dr. Ricky Krins about Bhutan, the dark side of Shangri-La. I want to greet everyone. For some technical issues, if you want to pose a question, just type it in the chat. Underneath you'll see 3 emojis to clap, unsure, or go crazy. You can also press those to give us some feedback on how you think. And after this at 3:30, there will be a virtual happy hour that will connect you with everyone who registered for the happy hour. And there's also video chat, so you can chat with everyone, and including Dr. Krins, who will answer any of your questions. So let me pass it over to Dr. Krins, and she can start telling you about her experience in Shangri-La or Bhutan.
Welcome, everybody. This afternoon, and good morning, good evening, or good afternoon from the Amsterdam studio. I'm going to talk to you today about Bhutan and give you an insight in the behind the scene of the gross national happiness and the Shangri-La, that image that Bhutan has nowadays. I will talk first about how I first went to Bhutan, what I did there, and what brought me to doing the impact investment project after 2009, and also what happened after that. So in 1990, I was finishing my studies for my master's degrees in anthropology, and as an anthropologist, you have to do like a 3.5 year research in a different culture. My dream always was to go somewhere where the 20th century was not so much there, and to meet an authentic tribe or a group of people. So then I got the letter from the university. They were looking for people who wanted to spend a half year in a remote village in Bhutan, and that was a huge opportunity, which I took with both my hands. In those days, there was not much known, and there was no internet. And we were basically 3 anthropology students and 3 irrigation engineer students were sent for half a year to Bhutan. That was the first encounter I had. And in those days, Bhutan was really a magical place. There was no TV, no internet. Basically, it was still medieval society. Together with a woman who was studying irrigation engineering, we were sent to a village which was a 12-hour hike from the road, the only road, into the mountains, where we had to spend half a year. It was an incredible experience, and I learned what true sustainability means, because the people, they still were living on a barter economy. Money was not much there, and they didn't want it because they couldn't use it. There were no shops, and they lived from 3 months, 4 months growing rice, and that was enough to cover the whole village. That was about 120 people in total, with rice and the vegetables and eggs and protein they got from the chickens, and the vegetables they gathered in the forest, also the spices. So that is where I really got a deep connection with the country and fell in love with the place, because it was also that women had a strong position. House and land belonged to them. And so it was a matrilineal society. The inheritance went from mother to daughter. And the men were very helping. There was no labor difference, which is almost in a lot of Asian societies, a strict gender roles, which were not the case there. So for me, it was like unbelievable that this exists in South Asia. So where women have also the freedom of sexuality to change partners, the children they had, it was not important who the biological father was. They regarded much more as the incarnation. That was more important, the spirituality. And so every child was welcome. And almost all the women had many children from different men. And that was not an issue at all. And also divorce, when usually was so like if a woman fell in love with a man, the man came and lived with the family of the wife. They didn't marry. In Bhutan, when somebody sleeps together, a couple, that's considered to be married. So it's quite easy. And so if the love was over, the husband had to leave, and he went back to his mother, which was often not so very nice to do for the man, and he lost face. So that was always an issue. But it gave the women really a strong position, and you feel that it's still overall in Bhutan, it's still the case. Sadly enough, with education coming in, modern education, English medium education, firstly brought by teachers from India who really looked down on this freedom, so to say. So that changed, sadly, and also later because of TV and the role model outside of the world. So it's often, like a professor told me once, a gender professor, he said, when modernity comes in, the women lose it. And, I saw it with my own eyes. That's true. So after my experience in Bhutan, I got my master's degree, and then I got married and a child. And then in 1999, so 9 years later, I went back, mostly as a tour guide, to see. That was an easy way to get into Bhutan, because they had, in the meantime, they set up a tourism scheme, which is called controlled tourism. That means that you pay $250 a day, and so you travel with a guide, and hotel and transport is covered. So, and about $80 of that amount goes to is taxes. So that goes to the state, and the rest is used by the travel agencies to pay for the hotels and the transfer and all the costs. Then I had a chance, because of my experience in the village, I wanted to do a documentary on the position of women, because what I experienced in the village, and which was wonderful. So I was looking for a filmmaker, and I found one. So, and we wanted to do it, but sadly enough, the project didn't fly, because the filmmaker was more interested in a royal family and not so much in a traditional society. And for me, I saw the uniqueness, what it was in the village, so I was not interested in the royal family. And so then I let it go. But then I got after 2000, I got the chance to do a PhD, and I took that with also both hands. So that was a nice way of going back more often, do research, and go deeper into the culture. Because in 1990, I didn't know much about Buddhism, shamanism, etc. And I wanted to learn much more about it. So I had a chance, and I could go on a regular basis, kept on doing the guiding. And then in 2008, I had a group of I was doing high-end tours. I had a group of Dutch investment bankers and CEO of former banks, etc., wealthy Dutch people. And one of my clients in central Bhutan, because the hotels that came up were all run by families who didn't know what they were doing. So it was always very like bed and breakfasts, but the bathrooms were not correct. The rooms were a bit shabby. The food was always the same. So, and in central Bhutan, one of my clients got a tantrum, and very frustrated, he spoke out, "Oh my God, this country needs a hotel school." Because he had no cupboard in his room to put his suit in. Internet was down. He couldn't check the stock market. Then there was no tonic for his G&T at 5 o'clock. So I think, oh, wow, that's a great idea. And then a day later, I was driving in central Bhutan, and my local guide, which I worked with, pointed out a beautiful piece of land in Bhutan, and he said, this belongs to Gangri Tours, and Gangri Tours is the travel agency I worked with. Yeah, they want to set up a hotel, but they don't know how to do it. And I thought, oh my God, this is such a great idea to do an eco-lodge and a hotel school. That would be fantastic. Maybe I have to think about it to do a project like that. So in the meantime, I got my PhD, and so I wanted to... I was looking for a new project, and I have to say, I love Bhutan, but I always, had contact with people in the villages, and these people I really liked. I never got involved with the royal family or with the elite because I didn't like them very much. And even in the village where I was living, they told me that the people in the village, that the king of Bhutan couldn't visit the village because then the deity of the valley, Kachap, he would throw stones at him. So I thought, hey, that's interesting because, Bhutan is in a way like North Korea. You have images of the king everywhere, every household, huge billboards everywhere. So that this little community in the mountains had this view on the royals. That was very interesting. So in 2009, I started to set up my project. Because I have to say, in 2008, the big change came into Bhutan. Before that, it was still an absolute monarchy. The king had the absolute power. So in 2008, they decided to become a democracy, and the fourth king handed over his power to his son, the fifth king, a young man around in his 30s. So officially, you could say Bhutan became the so-called democracy, a constitutional monarchy, and tourism started to boom. So a lot of hotels came out. The Aman Group had built 5 lodges in 5 different valleys, but the Aman Group, they charge about $2,000 a night. So that was really only for the happy few who could fly in with choppers and all that. So, but in the meantime, also some 5-star hotels came in, like the Uma in Paro and the Taj Mahal of the Taj Group, not Mahal, the Taj Group in Thimphu. And, but all these hotels are hotels that could be set up in Vietnam, in Thailand, or you name it. So so if you set up a hotel, I was reading one of the questions, but I come later to that. So I'm going to finish my talk first. So in 2009, I decided to set up the Learning Exchange Foundation, and was very idealistic because the hotel school I wanted to set up as a non-for-profit and to finance that with donations and for the hotels, the for-profit, the Eco Lodge, I set up a LTD and a separate structure. So to come back to the hotels, because what I saw with the 5-star hotels coming in, they were very expensive. They were nice, but nothing special. So I thought, in Bhutan, in that beautiful piece of land, if we would do a hotel like an eco lodge, really off the grid, with the newest sustainability things in place, all green and organic, and do it as a home of the nobility, because the nobility in Bhutan, they have beautiful farmhouses where they have their own temple where you can meditate. I think a hotel like that you are guests of royalty or nobility. And no, that was a fantastic idea. But I started in 2009 with the project, and at that time also in the capital in Bhutan, they decided to set up a FDI, so we could do a foreign direct investment registrations that would give us some tax benefits, and also that we could stay in the country, because it's a very close country, and it's very difficult to get in, and let alone to stay there. And in the meantime, I was doing other projects, like I organized and financed a 7-week private leadership program for 50 unemployed youth, Bhutanese youth, I did that together with some professional people who are working in that field. And because I saw with a lot of children, because mind you, in 1990, most kids of Bhutan didn't go to school. And only after 2090, they set up schools all over the country, English medium schools, and those kids went to school. But Bhutan is one of the smallest economies in the world. So all these kids come from school and they don't have jobs, and there is no access to jobs. And the parents are often illiterate. They push them to become a civil servant. And of course, every year there's only a few hundred people who can get jobs as a civil servant. And the rest of the kids are just left in limbo. If they had to go back to the villages and become farmers with, like 200 years ago in Europe. So that created a lot of problems. And I saw that tourism, that was the only growth sector in the country next to hydroelectricity, but hydroelectricity only has jobs for some engineers and not for a lot of young people. So I thought a hotel school would do the job, in the sense that there was so much demand for trained people, and also to fit to the policy of Bhutan to go for high value and low volume. So you need to offer something special to people who pay $250 a day to come to the country. So saying that, so I started with I had set up the foundation, I set up the LTD, and then I was proposing to investors, but that was very difficult because 2008 was a major crisis, and that went on. And so after 3-4 years struggling along, I found a seed investor, a gentleman from Italy who loved my project and has said, I would like to come on board and help you. He was a banker. He had put in the first money, and with him, we made a whole very professional investment deck, and we were looking about 3 million, for the first lodge, and then to roll out 5 more in the country. So it was very ambitious. We had the land, we had a local counterpart, which was the travel agency. They loved that we were helping them. And then for the non-for-profit, I thought, to rent an old hotel, refurbish it to a 3-star hotel, and then use that as a training facility for the school, as a small hotel with 10, 15 rooms, and then a dorm for the kids, and some classrooms, and make a professional kitchen. Okay, by developing the whole business plan and de-risking it as much as possible, etc., I learned so much. I learned that it's easier to ask for 300 million than for 3 million. So because of the due diligence and all that. So then my partner said, you know what, let's start with a hotel school, and I will put in the first money and that we get it off the ground. So he invested about 100,000, and with that money we could redo the hotel that I found in Paro. And the local counterpart, as Mr. Norbu, he was a very good counterpart, and he wanted to do it together with us. We had fully support from the Ministry of Labor in Bhutan, and so we found 2 fantastic young hoteliers, one from the Lausanne Hotel School, one from The Hague. The 2 of them, they developed the whole curriculum for the school, and they went to Bhutan for a year to set up the school. And but from day one, we had a lot of problems because we had huge problems to get visas. Immigration office, they just refused to give us the visas, although we had the fully support from the Ministry of Labor, and it was very strange. And so we went up to the Prime Minister at that time to get the visas for the 2 young men, and they had to wait for 3 months in India. And in the meantime, in India, they could do a lot of shopping for the school, and because we had to rebuild that whole hotel that we hired. But that should have been a warning already that it was not easy. So that there was something wrong. And we didn't know what it was, because I thought, we do something fantastic for the country, because they had a hotel school in the capital, built by the Austrian development organizations. They put 10 million in it, and the school was almost empty. It was they imported everything from Germany and from Austria. The machines, most of them were broken. Nobody knew how to fix it. It's the classic mistake a lot of development organizations make. So we set it up, with the school developing and the students coming in. I had a lot of material to show to donors, and I started to do fundraising to show this is what it is. We need that kind of money. And lo and behold, the money came in. A lot of money, a lot of fantastic people, especially in Asia, they supported us tremendously. And so then, I just loved the school. It was so fantastic to have that project going on. We built a pizza oven. We had pizza parties, and the kids, they were all from very poor backgrounds, and so they had a chance to learn something decent, and they could get a job just like that. After the training was for a year and 3 years internship, and all our school students, they found jobs in 5-star hotels, even in India. Now that was great, but there was something strange going on, because I had a lot of Southern Bhutanese kids. Bhutan is a multi-ethnic society, but the people from Tibetan descent, they are in control. And in the eastern part, the Charchopas is called, they're originally from Burma, Assam. And in the south, the people, they come mainly through the centuries. They migrated there and start to live there. They're from Nepali descent. They're Hindu, and they speak Nepalese. All Bhutanese speak Nepalese, by the way. But then I heard in 2090 already they were doing a census, and then they learned that the southern Bhutanese and the eastern were the majority of the people. So they started to become the fourth king started a policy. It's called Driknam Namja. It means that all the people in Bhutan have to take the culture of the minority Tibetan people, and they have to speak the language, which is called Zonka. They have to wear the clothes, and all the customs have to be. So it became so strict that the people in the south were not allowed to speak their own language anymore. If police heard that they were speaking Nepali, they had to pay money, and it became even worse. They were not allowed to wear their clothes, although the south is tropical and the north is cold, and they have woolen clothes. So for the south, it was not very pleasant, even with funerals, because they're Hindu, they have to wear white. It was a very discriminatory approach, and also a lot of people didn't have access. They didn't get an ID card, and without an ID card, you cannot do anything. You don't have. So when that happened, this massive discrimination that led to a genocide, which I even didn't know at that time that was going on. And also the world didn't know. They all looked away because it was at the same time when Rwanda was happening. So people, were mostly looking toward that corner. And so what happened in Bhutan was almost forgotten. But 120,000 people were displaced. They were young men who came. There was a demonstration organized in the south. They got shot. 2 people died. A lot of people were thrown in jail. They've been tortured. And they were called anti-national. And, to be called an anti-national before 2008 meant you could get death penalty. And after 2008, with the democracy in place, you get life sentence. So there was a lot of horrible things going on. And I didn't really realize it. I just heard rumors, but I couldn't believe that almost 20% of the population was evicted from the lands they were living on for generations, and the world didn't do anything. So in the end, most of these people ended up in a camp in Nepal, and around 2009-8, they were all taken in. The UN had organized, they tried to get the people back to Bhutan, but the Bhutanese didn't want to talk about it, the Nepalese didn't want to deal with it, and the Indians didn't want to deal with it. So these people were stuck between three countries. And so the UNCR, they decided to take in divide the people among the Western countries like America. The Netherlands has 320 of the refugees, former refugees, Australia, UK. So they are now they're now in Western countries. But it's very sad because I'm involved with them. A lot of people don't know how to read and write. They're very isolated. And, it's a huge transition to go from a rural village living in the medieval to a 21st century modern society where you have to find your way. Okay, I like to answer. I saw some questions. I like to ask some questions. Okay, shall I go back to the gross national happiness? Because I want to just talk a little bit about the gross national happiness, because when the ethnic cleansing started, the genocide, how you name it, you can look it up. If you don't believe me, Google it. The Human Rights Watch has a huge report on it. Amnesty International, you name it. There's a lot out there that proves what I'm talking about here. And no, I lost my thought. Going back to gross national happiness, when this happened with the southern Bhutanese, and there was also some discrimination toward the people in the east, but not as because the people in the east are not so. The southern Bhutanese, they were also better schooled, and some of them had already quite good businesses, and they were more prosperous in a way than the people in the east. So they also got quite discriminated. But then the king came up with the slogan, we want economic development for the country, but I want my people to be happy. So we have to aim for a gross national happiness instead of the, gross national product with money, economic development. So at that time, I was still in the village when I heard that, and I thought, oh my God, this is really brilliant, because what I saw in the village, that was almost like an ideal society. The people, they only worked 3-4 months a year. Nature provided everything what they needed. Of course, the dark side was that there was no medication, and people died very young, or babies died because of bad hygiene. There was very bad hygiene. People never washed because it's a Tibetan custom, but it was on low altitude. The village was on like 1,500 meters, so it was subtropical. And it was really dirty, and the people have completely black necks. But it was also protection against bugs, because they live so close with the animals and all that. So the gross national happiness was actually a brilliant phrase of the king. And then Jigme, he was the first prime minister after Bhutan became a democracy, started to operationalize gross national happiness, and they set up a Center for Bhutan Studies to see how they could including this to develop a model to index the happiness, measurements and all the dominions that has to be in place to be able to measure it and to what do we need. But I saw at the same time when I was working, when I was studying and writing my PhD, I was really blissful with my work, and I loved about Bhutan and all what was going on. But becoming a social entrepreneur with the project, the hotel project, I learned about a complete different side of Bhutan. And that was very shocking. First of all the assets in the country, the major assets in the hand of the royal family. They control everything. So you can say democracy is in place, but it's a window dressing. It's the real power is behind the scenes. And I noticed that a lot of people, when you talk about the royals, they become very nervous, and they say they look around them, that nobody listens. Don't talk about the royals. It's it was absolutely taboo. And also, what happened is that I noticed that they don't like to have foreigners there. They want foreigners as tourists or as investors, but not to stay there. That was also the reason why they made our lives so difficult. That we had all the time we had problems getting visas for our trainers, and even when we wanted to do something like inviting a celebrity chef to cook in the school and to give some. They always refused. So, and then the second year of the hotel school, a Dutch couple stayed the whole year there. They were managing the school, and they also told me, they said they don't want us here. They treat us like criminals. So I noticed that something really not right was going on. And the more I got into the history and also the situation of the southern Bhutanese, the more I saw the lie that was going on, and the massive propaganda about, and also the Bhutanese. I mean, they believe it because they get the whole day. Everywhere you come, you hear how great Bhutan is, how fantastic the king is, and they worship the king and the royal family like gods. And even if you look into history, you could almost say that the king of Bhutan, of the first king of Bhutan in 1907, he was a usurpator. He was Bhutan before 2009 was a system like in Tibet with a Shabdrung, like a Dalai Lama, with a theocratic head of state. And the British, they helped the Wanshuk dynasty to get into power. So there's a lot of things that's not right there. And that is still what I notice. And then, of course, the major important part, what happened to me personally, was that in 2016, in November, I was waiting for my visa to go back to Bhutan to inspect the hotel school and all that. Then I learned I was blacklisted. The immigration, my local counterpart, Mr. Nobu, he checked to get the visa from immigration, and the immigration officer said to Nobu that I was a persona non grata, that I was blacklisted. So Mr. Nobu called me and he said, "What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean? What I do? I didn't do anything. I helped a lot of people and young people to get jobs. So, yeah, you blacklisted." Say, "What? Yeah, you blacklisted. You're persona non grata." And I couldn't believe it. And I think, I was shaking. And no, it was a major blow. And then I learned then I got in contact with all the refugees and heard the stories. And, that was basically what happened. And then I learned the dark side of a country like Bhutan. And the worst thing is that the royals and the diplomats, they just ignore it. They don't reply to emails. You can send letters. They just do as if it's not there. And that's a quite brilliant thing to do. But I think in the long run, you cannot cover up something like this and what they did to so many people in the country. I don't live in Bhutan, so for me it's hard. It's painful. But for those people who never can go back, it's a nightmare. And I speak with them on a regular basis, and they have now a Dutch passport or an American passport. They want to go back because a lot of have their parents still there. They're old. Some have family in jail. They're political prisoners. And as soon as they see born in Bhutan, they don't get a visa, which is such a huge abuse of human rights. And now in the time that we all see the injustice in the world, that's hard. So let me see if I can see some questions here. Yeah, Robert, can you help me in that? Because I cannot scroll. See? Okay, thank you. Okay. Is there any infographic on the index? What Tony Eng is asking me that. I don't understand that question, sorry.
It's a graph. Is there a graph, a photograph of how the index works?
Which index?
The gross national happiness index.
Oh yes, I think if you want to look at the gross national happiness index, I think there's a lot online. Just Google it, GNH, or you go to the Center of Bhutan Studies, and then you can see everything there is about it. And Tony Engels also asked me, what is the current land ownership structure in Bhutan? Is it communal based or leasehold based? It's leasehold based. There is a lot of people, all Bhutanese families, they own land, and they can, if you as a foreigner want to do something in Bhutan, it's I think the same system as many Asian countries, based on you need to have a counterpart, or you can lease it for 20 years, but I think you have to have a Bhutanese involved. Oh, Robert Rubenstein said something. What is the tourist demographic to Bhutan? How many tourists per annum? Is tourism the right approach to help Bhutan? That's a very good question. Sorry that I say that, because I learned that not to say that is a good question, but I say it anyway. Bhutan, the Center for the Ministry of Tourism, they invited McKinsey some years ago to make a report about how to boost tourism. And, they have the $250 a day quota that you have to pay. And now the peak of tourists, the last time I was there in 2016, were about 100,000. It sounds not much, but mind you that in Bhutan there's only one road that goes from west to east. And if you have too many, like if you, McKinsey was reaching out for 200,000, and most of them would come in from March to June, and then again from September to December. And the peak months are March, April. And October, November, because of the rainy season. And in the winter, it can snow. It's beautiful in December, but it can be very cold, freezing. Depends on the altitude that you are. So all these tourists come at the same time. That creates a lot of problems, in the sense that they're selling Bhutan as this pristine the pristine destination where everything is intact with ancient old monasteries, etc. So, but because of the expenses, most tourists go for 7 days and stay in the West. And it can be that there is a whole line of people going up to Tiger's Nest or want to visit the old monastery, which is not really nice. Or that day, I once had it that we were in a traffic jam of buses going to the east. So it's difficult. And to spread it, they try to spread it that more tourists come in the summer during the rainy season. The disadvantage of the rainy season is that you don't see the high peaks because you have beautiful views everywhere. But the nice thing is that it's nice and warm, and there's hardly any tourists, so that you're basically alone. So and it's the same with December. But December, very clear skies, but at night it's freezing cold and it can be snowy. And okay, that is it the right way to approach the tourism? No. And I learned that by doing the hotel school, because we had 12 in the school. We had 12 rooms for guests. We had a professional restaurant, and the kids had to train on real guests. So what happened was that, but because when you book a trip to Bhutan, you pay a travel agency. If you want to go, let's say 10 days, $2,500 that goes to the travel agency, and the travel agency books the hotels where you're going to stay and also the restaurants. So I asked a lot of travel agencies, I said, could you please send some clients to our hotel school, because they will have the chance to eat really decent food and not the same what they offer to the tourists all the time. It's always a buffet and everybody cooks the same food, and tourists after 4 days, they're sick of it. And they said, we only do it when you, and they squeezed our the prices so low that we lost money of having people. So that was, I was really very disappointed on that. So it doesn't work. It doesn't boost the economy. It doesn't give an incentive to people. There's so many young people who want to start a coffee shop, a little restaurant, for the tourists, but they're not coming there because they're all going to the hotels and restaurants where the travel agencies have a deal with, and all the money goes to in the pockets of the travel agencies. So there is something wrong on the system. It doesn't work. I hope that was the answer that you were looking for. Of course, the $80 from the $250 that people pay, it goes to the government. So that goes for the taxes. That's okay. Then Tony Eng asked me, how about socio-ecological activities in Bhutan? You mean sustainable activities? You mean in a tourist sense? I don't understand exactly what you mean with social ecological activities. Robert, do you know what that means?
Go to the next question.
Oh.
Let me type in the.
Okay. How long did this? Oh, that is Daniela. Daniela, how long did this genocide go on? At the moment, there's still what my southern Bhutanese friends told me, that there's still a couple of thousand people in a camp in Japa is the name of the camp in Nepal, and a couple of hundred people are still in jail, and they're lifelong in jail. And what I also found very shocking, that they use the newest torture methods on these people. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So, Daniela, if you want to have more information, I can send you some articles and etc. Hi, Arvind. Oh.
Don't worry, just
go. Why can you get a visa? Inge Ralph asked me, why can they not get visas if they are political refugees? The Netherlands, Scandinavia are open to give. Yes. No, I mean, the refugees, they have Dutch passports or American passport. All the countries that took them in, they've been neutralized. But if they want to go back to Bhutan, they are not given visas to enter Bhutan. And that is because in the passport it says born in Bhutan. So that's the problem. And, it's, it just, the human rights abuses just goes on and on. It's, and they keep it quiet. So that's the problem. I wrote it's so bad that I was on Twitter and I tried to raise awareness about this. There's some young Bhutanese who just, give me death threats. So and they have no clue about their history. They are not taught at school about the history of their country and all this. So the young people are ignorant, and 50%, more than 50% of the Bhutanese population are under 25 years old. And also, to tell you the truth, that was in 2010. There was an article. And it's true, a lot of young people commit suicide because there is they try to leave the country. There are about 800 illegal Bhutanese in New York. They went there for visiting or tourists or whatever, and then they stay there. And then the suicide, that is a picture that Bhutan doesn't want to show the world. That it's all constantly the rhetorics about the kings and how wonderful they are and etc. What sectors? Oh, Peter Berg. Yeah, I can only read Peter Berg. What sectors are the main drivers of the Bhutanese economy besides tourism? As I said, it's only, hydroelectricity in the dams. They build dams with the help of India. That is, that they generate clean energy and export the energy to Bangladesh and India. And tourism, that's it. So, we have 700,000 people. 90% is self-subsistent farmer. So, and they hardly have access to money. And also the problem of the infrastructure is so bad. they cannot bring their produce to the central market, because that's a huge opportunity there. Because Bhutan had, and that was also what made me so incredible, hopeful to that this country could make a difference. Because in 1990, when I was studying how people grow their rice, they had ancient old rice seeds they used, and it was all organic, and they could thresh it with their feet, and it was delicious. And I was there. The research was there to see if we could have these people grow 3 crops instead of 1 with the miracle seeds, from the Green Revolution, which was horrible. They all, they needed pesticides, they need fungicides. They had to buy kerosene because for the mill to thresh the rice. So it was all, going back. And we wrote a report, and we told the government that Bhutan has the chance to do something different and become organic. And the produce was of such a high quality, the mushrooms that grow there, the young ferns, delicious stuff. That would cause huge good prices on the world market if you market it well. So sadly enough, they just, they tried to do something, but then the civil servants are just not interested. And a lot of farmers tried to do it, but then they didn't get help and they lost a lot. So it was a disaster. But they could have made a difference. So that's really... that was a question. And then I have another question from Daniela. Do you think there may be a gender aspect on what's happening to you? You're being a woman? No, absolutely not. Bhutanese women, as I said, it's Bhutan has a very strong gender equality. Women are very much in charge. They're in charge. They have a lot of freedom of movement. Most own the money, own the land, the house, because the hotel that we hired belonged to the wife of Mr. Nobu, and I had to deal with her, and I wanted to. We agreed on the deal, so I had to sign the papers, and so I came on Tuesday evening, and she said, "Oh no, today we cannot sign because it's an inauspicious day. Please come back tomorrow because that's a good day for me for my star sign." So no, I mean this is just a little anecdote, which why I like Bhutan so much. So no, women are a very, very strong position, and a lot of them go to who can. They go to good universities, and they go away for 4 or 5 years and leave their children behind with their parents. Daniela, you want to love some information about the human rights abuse in Bhutan? I will send you. I just wrote a paper about it, and also about the fakeness of the democracy in Bhutan and how it works. And I'm not the only one saying that. There's a fantastic book from a southern Bhutanese who really analyzed it very well, and then you can see the truth, what is behind it. Tony, did you? Okay, Jonelle. Hi, Jonelle. Did you get any reaction directly, the Bhutanese government or former? No, I didn't get anything. I published my book, which was blacklisted in Bhutan. And this is a big version, but there's a smaller version of it. You can order it at Amazon and a Dutch bol.com. I didn't hear anything, but I heard from the refugees. They said I was famous in Bhutan because they were all talking about it. So I don't know. They never talked to me, but I give it a lot to students. They contact me from the college in the east of the country, and they ask about it. And I said, yeah, sure, you should learn about the history of your country and what was going on. So I spread the word there. So I think a lot of Bhutanese heard about it. Okay, Tony Ang, isn't it contradicting to impose the flawed GDP to a Bhutan way of living, degrowth, economic development, creation, urban woes, and mental health? Oh, yeah, mental health. That's a big issue. I had a long talk once with there's only one psychologist in Bhutan, and this is an amazing man who had his brother. The brother was schizophrenic, And, what usually happened in a country like Bhutan, when somebody has a mental health issue, they are regarded as possessed by demons. And they often are locked in dirty holes or on chains in the kitchen. It's horrible. And this doctor, he saw that what's going, and he saw his own brother, and he said, "I cannot that happen that to me, to him, and to our family. I want to know what's going on, and I want to learn what kind of medicine I need to give it to him." And so he studied psychology, and I think he went to India. And now he's running a mental health department, which is very basic, nothing fancy. But it's an issue, and it's very neglected, and basically still a taboo. And the way of living is you have to picture a small country the size of the Netherlands, the size of Switzerland, with only 700,000 people. They live very remote villages. Most people have to walk from 1 to 3 days to get to their villages. So there's some small towns, like Thimphu, in 1990 in the capital, there was only 10,000 people living there. Now there are 100,000. So it became very urban, and it became very polluted. So there are open sewerage. There's a lot of, they use a lot of the garbage are dumped in the forest. Actually in Bhutan, in a pristine place, forest, they were dumping all the plastic, and so there is not really a way of dealing with the whole garbage. And although they say they are green, that they are sustainable and green and the Japanese, they gave some help by introducing garbage trucks in the capital. There's a lot of air pollution now because everybody who can, get a car gets a car. That brings us to the whole financial issue, because most Bhutanese have no clue how to deal with money. So most of them are over their head in debts. So there's a lot of issues, and that has to do because they've been torpedoed in 20 years from the medieval up to the 21st century. And that, of course, comes with a lot of problems. And we have to face that too. So and they try to make a difference. But that costs. A lot of people had to suffer because of that. So there's another, isn't it contradictory to impose the flow? Okay. Here, Daniela. Is it possible that the royalties are not aware of what happened and just think everything goes right? No, they know very well what's going on, very well, because it's the fourth king who personally started this ethnic cleansing. So that because he was worshipped as a god, because, if you look at it, what this man has done, first I thought is, Bhutan became in the 90s. It was all the development organizations loved it. Everybody wanted to have an office in Bhutan. Everybody wanted to throw money at Bhutan because they had good governance. They had free education. They had free health care for all their people. The most remote villages got schools. They had basic health units for free. If somebody was sick, they would send to Delhi for treatment on cost of the government. So Bhutan became this welfare state, this incredible, and then the king made sure that Bhutan joined the UN, that it became a sovereign state. Basically, it's a protectorate of India, but the internal affairs, they are sovereign. They have their own currency, they have their own rules and everything. So it was a success story. At the same time, this genocide was happening. That made it so if you look at it and think, oh man, and if you deconstruct all what's going on, and then you see, well, this is a brilliant mind behind this, how they set it up. You couldn't believe it, and anyhow. So no, the royals, they know very well, and it's a big family. And they, for example, if you have, in a nightclub, picture this. So there is I know that from my one of my guys. He was in a nightclub and he had a nice girl. He was dancing with the girl. Then one of the royals came in. He didn't know that he was a prince. So he was dancing, and then the prince came and he wanted to dance with the girl. And the Dutch guy said, "No, I'm with the girl. And why? No, this is not right." And then everybody in the club became quiet and sat down, and faces became like stone. And then he said, "Oh, you have to, otherwise you're in deep trouble." So he had to hand over the girl, and the girl couldn't do anything to that guy. And everybody afterwards said, "Whew." So that is the way they deal. And and even if you bump into them, you have to be careful. It's they can do whatever they want and nobody can touch them. So that's basically the story. Daniel, they just scared. Sounds so terrible. Yes, it is. It is absurd, if you, and I was so blind for it so many years. Thomas Witt is asking me, sorry, does it mean that the agricultural sector is now contaminated by pesticide, fertilizer, protection seed, or was it only a period? So food, yes. What we advised the government in those days to leave the remote villages alone and keep them as organic, and because they want to look into a modern way of farming to create food for their own market, especially rice, because they didn't want to be depending on India, of importing rice from India or Bangladesh. So there are regions like Punaka, it's a very fertile valley. There's a lot of normal, as we call it, the way of growing rice with they're using pesticides and all that. But there are still also a lot of areas that are organic. In the capital, at the weekend market where all the farmers can sell their produce, there's a special department for organic foods. It's small, but it's there. So it's still there. Inge is asking me, how do you balance tourism and development with the preservation of probably the last deeply pure Buddhist culture? Sorry, I have to address this. I missed the first bit of intro. Yes, Buddhism is all over. It's a living spirituality. I have been to Tibet last year and I saw what's happening there. And so the Bhutanese are, first of all, animistic, and secondly, Buddhist, because Buddhism is complicated and they see it mainly as karma and reincarnation. So you have you live a good life and maybe you have a better incarnation in the next life. That's basically what it is. And tourism hardly has an impact of it. It's the Bhutanese are very good in protecting their heritage and also temples where tourists are not allowed. So they opened up. There are so many small ancient old lakangs that tourists don't go to. So they do a very good job, and because it's still the numbers are not that big. So I can say. The balance is very good. So, but it's not like Sikkim, because in Sikkim, I like Sikkim very much because there are many, because most people never heard of Sikkim, and there are ancient old lakangs, temples, which you can visit, and you can even go talk to the monks and do a puja or do a meditation in these. That's often not allowed in Bhutan, so you have to ask permission, and if you have a good guide, they can organize that for you, but it's way more complicated than in Sikkim or Nepal or other countries. Then I have Peter Berg again. Some luxury brand hotels like Aman and Six Senses recent open hotels in Bhutan. What percentage of staff is Bhutanese in the case, and how many expats are allowed to work in these type of property? Do Bhutanese people get similar opportunities when it comes to management positions? It's a good question. Most staff is Bhutanese. They've been trained by the hotels itself, and they take a lot of kids from our school. Our kids, they did a lot of internships with the Six Senses and Amman. But I have to tell you that Amman pays these kids who work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, $80 a month, which is a huge scandal. You know, a tourist pays $1,800 to $2,000 per night, and then they pay these kids that kind of money, which is in Bhutan also nothing. You know, a normal salary would be $400 or $350, $400. Okay, and usually the management is expats, and if you set up an FDI, you know, foreign direct investment with a business and a hotel, you're allowed about 2 expats, and they can stay 1 year and then they have to change. So it's even there. It's complicated. It's not as easy that you can say, okay, I will stay there. Maybe they changed the laws, but it was in those days. It was like that you could have for a period of time for the kitchen. I think you could have an expat, and for management. That was mostly the case. And, you know, a management position means that you had a hotel school like Lausanne or The Hague or you know, like an international management training. And you need that skills. And that is what, Bhutan started that with the development organization from Austria, but it was not very good. So our students were better trained. Arvind cannot join, he cannot hear. Thomas Witt, what happened in sports in Bhutan? I read about Tour of the Dragon mountain bike race. That was done by the royal family. The royal family, they always need money. I will tell you the scams they do. They, first of all, invest in 5-star hotel outside the country, not even in Bhutan, and they have a bunch of hotels, so-called 5-star hotels in the country, and they are run very badly because they have no good management. They're too cheap to pay people decent, and they charge $300 per night, which makes your $250 up to $700 a day, and so they want to make easy money. And they don't have a lot of, Bhutan is not a rich country. They don't have resources and all that. So they come up with this, the Tour of the Dragon. I think you had to pay about $100,000, and then you could join them. And that means that you can bike and you can hike and you had access to certain places. And so it was, you know, it's like for the rich and famous. And that is what the royals do. They invite all the time famous celebrities from Hollywood, etc. And they put them in their own hotels, and then they talk about, can you do this? Can you do that for us? And promise them the world, and it always ends with nothing. And that is what they do all the time. And then they invite thought leaders to think about how they could help Bhutan. And I had a letter from a thought leader who went to Bhutan. She was an advisor to the king, and she was disgusted by it. And she said that it is a Disneyland. It's not right. And also, I speak more and more to people who supported the spiritual Gross National Center. In Bumtang, there is a spiritual Gross National Center where Westerners can go to meditate and learn about Gross National, the Gross National Happiness Center, and they almost get brainwashed about it. And I spoke to some who got really, they got a lot of money from rich Americans mainly, and rich Hong Kong people, rich Taiwanese. And they also say there's something wrong there. It's not right. Anyhow, so this Tour of the Dragon is mainly there to enrich the royals, and that's how it is. Bhutan is not alone. Absolutism exists alongside too many quasi-democratic states. Yeah, Thailand, many millions. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's maybe even America. Sorry to say so, but LH president, can you go back to Bhutan? Or impossible? No, I cannot go back. They won't give me a visa. So end of story. Tony Eng, there's a nightclub in Bhutan. Oh my God. Yes, of course, there are many nightclubs. And at night in the capital, I wanted to go to a nightclub, and a lot of young guys, they told me, don't go, madam, because it's very dangerous. They are gangs. They're sniffing this glue, and it's a cough syrup with opium. They take that. They fight with knives. It's dangerous. It's a lot of and Bhutanese have no they have no how you say control with alcohol. You know, they drink till they get into a delirium, and it can be very dangerous. So they start, cutting you up with a knife, and I saw that many times, and it's really very, very different. Daniel's asking, so is the Six Senses Hotel better for salaries than Amman? I don't know what the salaries of the Six Senses is. It is that one of my students worked for the Amman, and she told me that she was earning $80 a month. I know that the Six Senses treats the students, the staff very well, and they get very well training, and they can also get sent out to Thailand, for example, which the kids love to go abroad. So that I have to look into. I have to ask. I don't know that. So we still have some time. So I don't have any questions anymore.
Yes. Scroll up.
More. Tony Eng. In short, are you implying loud and clear Bhutan is a scam? The gross national happiness is a scam. The propaganda is a scam. What they're selling and at the tourist tralala is a scam. I have to say, it is a beautiful country. People fall in love with it. It's colorful. It's spiritual. As soon as you get away from the capital, you're in pristine nature. It's beautiful, and there are not many places on the planet like that. Yeah, you have it in Tibet, but I was in Tibet, and I saw there. I was last year. I went from Nepal, Kathmandu, up in all the west of Tibet, and then I drove to Lhasa, Chigatse, all the old monasteries. I have to say, I was so impressed with the economic development, and I haven't seen any poverty. I saw the villages; they had new roads, they had electricity. The farmers, they looked prosperous. They had all electric tractors. It was all clean. I was so impressed, and I thought, oh my God. Of course, there was no freedom, and also the temples are now tourist attractions, and Bhutan has it in a way too. Only they say there's so-called freedom, but it's not really true. There's not really that freedom. So the scam is what the royals want to sell to the world. That's the scam, not the country itself. It's not, and the people are really wonderful and. So that's not the case. But the problem with the propaganda is that if you constantly hear that your king is a god and that Bhutan is so fantastic and that you're so lucky to be born in Bhutan, you believe it. And then you become, the Bhutanese have a tendency to become very arrogant, and they become like, almost like Nazis in the sense from, we are better than the rest of the world. And they do that to show they look down on Indians, they look down on the southern Bhutanese, and that is not nice. I mean, that is also something I never liked. And to give you an example with Sikkim, in Sikkim you can breathe. There it's open and it's not controlled. There's no mind control. Bhutan is so controlled. So that's an issue. Let me see, where are we with the last question? Daniela, is there any hope for the country? I'm honestly shocked and devastated. I was lucky to visit Bhutan 35 years ago. And yes, it was a treasure chest. I agree, Daniela. For me too, that's what when I was in 1990 living there, it was fantastic. I loved it. And I was hoping that the country would stay that way and that they would learn. But sadly enough, it's no. It could have become the Switzerland of South Asia, but no. The elite is too. The elite is too. They're bigots, religious bigots. They're very, very, and also you get. After a while, I got really a dislike of Buddhism, because in Bhutan they just keep on, pounding Buddhism is the best there is, and if you're Buddhist, you know it all, and so it's all, it's, come on. Who else addressing the social pressure in Bhutan, and what action are being taken by international parties? Very good question. Nobody. That's the problem. The royal family of the Netherlands, they are friends with the royal family in Bhutan and with the Thai elite and you name it. Nothing is done. And they praise Bhutan for their gross national happiness, and the whole charade goes on. That makes it so, makes me so furious that that very little people of power do anything about it. They all want to believe the Shangri-La, and having this mythical country in the Himalayas, this far-flung mythical country, what we all Shangri-La, hoping that it was, but it's not. Then Robert Rubenstein, if you had to advise the World Bank, where would you tell them to put money with economic sector of Bhutan? Oh, I would do the agricultural sector. That would be, they could, if they would improve the infrastructure, you could do it so simple, because, the most remote farmers, they have organic oranges, they have organic mangoes, they have cantarell, the mushrooms that grows in the forest that kids they have nake, which is a fern, a young fern, which is very highly priced. It's like green asparagus, you name it. They have all these fantastic spices, everything organic from the forest. They only have no way to bring it to a market. And so you could do there a lot and do much more with and basically just get the farmers at the table and talk to the farmers. I talked to farmers who had in Paro, who had this grow houses from Japan, and he was growing shiitake. He was growing the shiso leaves of high-end products, and he couldn't sell it, and artichokes, you name it. And yeah, in the high season, he can sell it to the hotels, but in the low season, yes, I got stuck with it because the Bhutanese don't know how to eat it. And, to bring that to a market as Calcutta or Delhi or Bangladesh, that would be fantastic. But it's expensive to ship it by plane. So there needs to be, if that could be improved, that would be fantastic. That would help the country tremendously. Then there could be a huge opportunity, is like with Switzerland, do top-notch schools. Like I was hoping to do my hotel school there, like the Lausanne Hotel School, make a top-notch hotel school for Asia, especially to start with for South Asia, and really train the kids with international 5-star standards of running a hotel. And that would have been a huge opportunity. How could the audience help you and the Bhutanese refugees? Tell the world what's going on. That's the thing, tell the world. That's the only thing we can do. I bet some consultants advise the royals. You think so, Tony Eng? Okay, they can tell about me and they even get more pissed off of me. So, but they don't like, I think the reason why they blacklisted me, one day I met a gentleman who he owned 5-star hotels in Singapore and Hong Kong and planes, and a quite big player. And he was in a hotel in Amsterdam where one of the first batch students, I said, one of the students who is the best this year, I take care of that person to come to the Netherlands and can do an internship in a 5-star hotel in Amsterdam. So I arranged that. And so this girl came and she spent 3 months in a hotel here. And there was this gentleman sitting there and she was serving him. And she was specialized in food and beverage. So she was working in a restaurant. And this gentleman asked her, where are you from? She looked Asian. And she said, from Bhutan. And she said, Bhutan? What are you doing here? And he said, I work here. And he said, what? But I see that you are the only one who knows what she's doing. So you are very professional. I see the Dutch, they don't have no clue what they're doing. He said, yes, I went to hotel school in Bhutan. And he said, hotel school in Bhutan? What school then? And she said, yeah, the Bonde Institute for Hotel and Tourism. And he said, yeah, I'm staying with the lady who set it up. And this gentleman said, I have to meet this lady. So he called me then and we had a meeting. And yeah, he said his dream, he lived in Bali, he was Dutch, but he owned, he lived all over the world and owned all these hotels and he trained the Drukpa pilot, the first flight pilots in Bhutan, and he knew the royal family himself. And he said, I will look into the situation why you've been blacklisted. And then he called me later on and he said, yeah, I found out it was a member of the royal family, and probably they didn't like what you were doing, working without them, because I stayed away from them. Because if you are in there, you lose your independence. You have to work for them and probably for free and all that. So that's how I know. And he said, and he also told me that they invested a lot in hotels outside Bhutan, and yeah, they especially the 4 queens. The king was the 4th king was married to 4 sisters. And they became queen. And, they are, the most Bhutanese don't like them. They say the 4th king was a god, but he made one mistake marrying these queens. And I learned they do everything to enrich themselves. So, anyhow. Does your experience in Bhutan invalidate the concept of gross national happiness, or can the idea be separate? This gross national happiness, as a policy, because that's what it became. It became a policy. How can you have gross national happiness when the first things that has to do with well-being for the society overall are not in place? That means there's no human rights are not respected. Human rights abuse. Bhutanese are not allowed to demonstrate. To go into the street to demonstrate, because then they're called anti-national. It is a fascist regime. Sorry for the harsh word, but if you look at it carefully, it has a lot of elements from the fascist way of running a country. So, okay, you can say it's a welfare state, but it's a very poor. Most people are so poor, and they're living under the poverty line, and they're not poor because it is low populated, so they have access to food because the soil is very fertile, so there's no hunger or anything. But I had talks with young people in Bhutan who said they went hungry, and so I mean, the real happy countries are the Scandinavian countries, Switzerland. They're all very rich countries with a good working democracy where people are well educated. And that's not the case with Bhutan. So, it's very brave of a small, poor country to go for the gross national happiness, but please start with respecting the people first and have your human rights in place, and have a royal family that's not enriching themselves, and give the assets to the state and not to the families, like the airlines, the Tashi cell, the everything what's there, the big things are all in the hands of the royals, and they can take whatever they want. And so to me, that's not a happy place. Sorry. And any country where suicide rate is so high among youngsters, about 700 in a year. So come on. But you could, the gross national happiness thing could be used as an aim from, okay, we're looking for that. But then you still have to start with respecting humans and not do as you please. So yeah, that's for me. Maybe for Asian people, human rights, what I learned, is not such a big deal, but for Western people, I mean, for me, it is, and I think you have to start there. At what age normally girls lose their virginity in Bhutan? They have, as I said, sexual relations are very free. But I think in the village, when I remember, it was about 16, 15, 16. That was mostly that they had, if they wanted, they could have relationships. I have to say, rape was a big issue. Rape, especially by monks, because most villages are remote and in forests, and it was something that happened a lot, and I was shocked about it. But it makes sense in a place where girls were not protected because of the high level of gender equality and the freedom. That's the other side of the medal. If you have it, you can say as a Westerner, wow, great, these girls have freedom of movement, they can do whatever they want, but they're not protected. And one thing that was very popular in Bhutan, I think it still exists in the East, is night hunting. And that means that a boy who is in love with a girl can at night go into the house, because they had wooden shutters, so not glass. So maybe now it's a little bit more difficult, depends on how the villages are. And then the whole family sleeps in one room. And then the boy wants to make sure that he slept with a girl of his choice and did his thing. So as I said, there is no stigma of young people, young girls getting pregnant and then have a baby. So even the girl who came to the Netherlands to do an internship here, she was so stupid and slept with a boy and has a baby now, and now she's sitting at home. So that's an issue. So that is also in the school that we had to talk a lot about, was almost life skills, not to get to sleep with young boys without protection and all that. But that happens a lot. But there's no stigma attached to it. But I have to say that now in the south of Bhutan, Phuntsholing, which is bordering India, there's a lot of girls trafficking going on, to brothels in India. That's increasing because also of poverty. And what happened is that certain tourists, old guys, go with girls, young girls, and promise them to take them to America. I heard stories of that. So that's a negative impact of tourism. But in general, the tourists are always kept aside from villages, not to mingle too much with the local population. So they took care of that. Danielle was asking, I missed it, the school still running? I'm not able to go back, but the school is still running. I still support it financially. And also I've sent one of the hoteliers who set up the school last November to go there to do an inspection. And it's still the best school in the country. So I'm very happy that also Mr. Nobu took ownership and he's running the school. And of course, they always need a new washing machine or, things. And there's still some foundation support, some scholarships for the poorest of the poor. And I also support that. So, that's what Robert was asking. What can people do? Yeah, you can still support people in the school if you want, or through my foundation, you can also support refugees in the camp. I make sure that it goes to the right people and no money will be used for other stuff. So it will go right to the people that need it. What else could be done to help the people sustainable? Thomas Witt's asking that. What else could be done to help? As I said, just with the school to pay for a scholarship for one poor girl or boy, it's about $2,000, $3,000 a year, or support some money for some new materials for the school. They always need that, because we did the school on flip-flops, or maybe even not, to be able to set up a full-fledged hotel school with 50 students and now 75. Because Mr. Nobu built a bigger dorm, so we could have more students. and hardly any dropouts. And we gave former drug addicts a chance. And these kids, they ended up in hotels in the W in Goa. I mean, it's a fantastic success story. And that makes me so sad that I cannot be involved with it anymore. And that's why I'm looking for a project to set up the same, because the model works. And it's very inexpensive with a high impact. I would like to set it up in more places in the world. But strangely enough, nobody wants to pay for it. So there we go back. What good can Bhutan teach the world? I thought I was always very optimistic and we could learn so much from Bhutan. Sadly enough, not much. Sorry. No, they have to learn now from the outside world. In 1990, I said Bhutan can teach the world so much but that's the simple farmers, because with their organic tools, with the animistic, the animistic belief system, that is where women and men are equal, where animals are equal, where you respect the nature, where you respect the streams, you respect the forest, you do that we can learn so much from that. But we have to get away from the royals and the Buddhism, but we have to go to the shamanistic world, to the true belief system of the people as it is in the villages. And there we can learn so much. Just the respect for all living things around us, even stones. So that's fantastic. Tony Eng, can you email Bhutan Constitution to us as Lina at... Okay. Okay, I hope I have access to it. So I have to look into that. I'm not sure if I can. I do my best. Okay. Oh, 5 minutes more. Yes, Daniela, I agree. Yeah. That the respect for nature and how to deal with nature and yeah, that is fantastic. And the living spirituality, not so much to the temples and that's all, it's all like the Catholic Church basically. You do some bad. I had some very rich people, Bhutanese, and they were treating their staff like terrible, but building all these expensive lakangs with huge Buddhas in it. But yeah, that's not the way. We have to go to the villages and learn from the people in the villages. That's where I wanted to visit Bhutan again next year. Would you recommend me not to go and keep the nice memory? Just go, but try to go off the beaten track as much as possible. There you still find the old Bhutan. Daniela. Okay, more? You're most welcome.
Okay, wrap it up.
Okay, please email me if you have any more questions or how I can help you. And I have my maybe Daniela, for you, this is my PhD book. I can send it to you for free. You just have to pay me for the postage. So anybody who likes to have this PhD on, it's a cultural study on Bhutan and discussions, I can send it to you. I will ask it and you just pay me $10 for the shipment. That would be great. Robert was so kind to write my email. Just email me there. And thank you so much for joining us and to listen to me. So stay well. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. We're going to be starting in about 3 minutes, the virtual cocktail party, or the virtual happy hour. So make sure you don't try to log in on your laptop, only on your phone. So you should have downloaded the app as we instructed. So go to the app on your smartphone. You can download it from Android or iPhone. It's Run the World Events. And then and then just go to the event that you're signed in, and the system will find someone to connect with you. Every few minutes, you'll have 5-minute conversation to introduce yourself, and then you'll get an overview of everybody that you met. And there's also a video chat functionality if you want to speak to the person and actually see them. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Ricky, for not losing anybody during a long Ask Me Anything. You were great. We hope to see you next time and that you'll do this again for us. Thank you.